that those institutions are subject to all kinds of evil, and are being now slowly used against us. I ask the average person who has, goes to a typical middle class church, which has, a high tech AV system and climate controlled sanctuary, and has a nice Canadian or American flag at the front. I say, you know what? In the first century house church movement, do you think there would be a Roman standard in the living room?
Absolutely not.
Probably not. Okay. Now, people who really object to my exposing or expose of the New World Order say things like, you should be evangelizing people. And I say, well, you know what? Forgive me for saying this, but you have wrapped the Bible in an American flag or a Canadian flag.
Yes.
Okay. And you have made your affinity to your nation so strong and so intermingled with your faith, because it really has a basis in self-justification. We are on top. 90% of the world doesn't have the same access to the resources as we do. So because of our status compared to the vast majority of the world, God must be with us. And I'm saying, look, pride goes before the fall.
Mm-hmm.
And all signs are pointing towards the decline of every possible way of America, and by extension, all Western nations. So I said, if you don't like my message now, reality will preach it to you very soon.
Yep.
And I would have to say, Leonard, I think that through your presentations, you are evangelizing. You're pointing out truth, which points to the ultimate truth, which is the gospel, which we covered earlier.
Well, that's what I hope to do. I'm using the systems of the world, like that infamous road that Paul traveled, which was laden with statues, and instead of condemning the whole thing, Paul on Mars Hill, Paul actually points out a statue to the unknown God, and he uses that as an evangelical starting point. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm taking people's faith in the system, and I'm opening it up for what it is. And then I'm saying, oh, by the way, the only thing that is pure and wholesome and true is the faith that we all can have in Jesus Christ. And I'm not talking about religion. Religion is part of the problem. I'm
Absolutely.
talking about a relationship with Jesus.
Right, and something you just said, having faith in those institutions, you talk about, the mass majority of people. It is interesting, when you probably do get those emails from atheists and people that are just, not jiving with your message. And, to the same people, I would say even, like television, the faith in television is just, I can't believe how many people just believe what they see. It's like seeing is believing. Again, another lie from Satan. But
yeah,
it's kind of unbelievable. It's like, how many people have faith that, like this planet is this, and this is going on in space, but how many people have ever been there? If seeing is believing, then you're pretty inconsistent in that faith that you have right now. You know what I'm saying?
Totally. It has been about 9 years since I've owned a television. I have all kinds of high-tech computers and video editing equipment, but I cannot watch television. I cannot especially watch television news. I get physically upset because I'm able to deconstruct the layers of lies in real time. As a matter of fact, I can pretty well predict how a story is going to be sold depending on what network I'm watching. You've got
Oh, wow.
I'm serious.
Very
You've
nice.
got Fox News for the right wing.
Right.
You've got MSNBC for the left wing.
Yep.
And you've got the other 3 networks for anything in between. It's a beautiful full spectrum dominance coverage. And when I watch Fox News, which is supposed to be the right-wing pro-Christian news channel,
Right.
and I watch Bill O'Reilly or someone of his ilk who is just spewing lies, telling us about how Fukushima radiation is good for us because it's just like an X-ray, I can't believe what I'm hearing. You know, you are insulting my intelligence. And when I literally watch this next time you watch Fox News.
We don't.
Okay, good. You will see ex-porn stars give you the conservative spin on Fox News, and they're all scantily clad. They're designed to appeal to the right-wing, conservative audience, but they're selling you their story based on sex.
Well,
Yep.
In other words, attractive women spouting off things that they clearly don't have a clue about what they're saying, and they're all scantily clad. And you actually type in these news reporters' names into IMDb, the International or Internet Movie Database, and about 5 to 10% of the time, they're all ex-porn stars.
I believe that. Absolutely.
You know, and something else. I mean, even, getting physically sick over the news, I can't, watch a commercial. I mean, the commercials are bad enough as it is. I mean, I think it was 4 out of 5 commercials the other day. I was visiting my parents, and they do watch Fox News. And even on this so-called conservative, appealing to the Christian, persona, having, Cialis and, all these different drugs, cough medicine, from that to arthritis medication, to dog medication, 4 out of 5 in between one of those segments was, medication related. And it's like, wow, we put our faith in medication,
Well, you know what? There is a beautiful verse in the Bible, Revelation chapter 18. And, I should have memorized this. I'm going to paraphrase it. Where it talks about, the kings of the earth use sorcery to deceive the nations. That is pretty well a quote, if not a very accurate paraphrase. I'm just using... give me about 10 seconds.
Well, we've got a Bible right here, so.
Oh, okay, perfect. Revelation 18.
And to add while you're looking, you talked about the sorcery here. We're treating, most of these medications are not treating the problem, they're treating the symptoms.
Oh, they're causing the symptoms, and then they're offering their cure, which is only exacerbating the problem. But that's all by design. Right? It's all according to the Hegelian dialectic. Offer or create the problem, control the reaction, offer the solution.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I've read half of it. Oh, yes. Revelation 18, verse 23. Okay. For thy merchants were the great men of the earth, for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. Now, that's a verse talking about the Babylonian system.
Yes, because right
Okay.
before they talking about come out of Babylon, my people, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Now, in my first volume, I said that New York fits the archetype of Babylon. I did not say that New York is Babylon.
Right.
Okay. So, in prophecy, you have typically multiple fulfillments of that prophecy, where a nation follows the archetype of something previous and suffers almost identical fate. Okay, so back to Revelation 18, verse 23. For by their sorceries were all nations deceived. Do you know that the Greek word for sorceries is pharmakia?
Yep.
Ha!
Right. And I just read, I think it was an NBC press release, 20% of the American public is on some kind of psychotropic drug. That is pharmakia. And that is just the opening act, and there's more to come. Okay, when you've got 20% of the population on some kind of mind-altering drug, when the economy crashes,
Yes.
what do you think is going to happen?
Bonkers.
You got it. If only 10% of that 20% of the American population has some kind of schizoid breakdown, they're gonna put their. I hate to say this, but I'll tell you what. You look at any kind of disgusting murder of some sweet housewife butchering her kids. 99% of the time, it's because that person was off of their meds as prescribed by their doctor. Okay? And I can't imagine or articulate what is going to happen when America suffers the same fate as, let's say, Argentina, Iceland, Greece. I could go on and on and on. In other words, America will have done to her what she has done to dozens of countries in the world. It's all going to come back on her.
Yes. Hey, Leonard, in your film, you did place a lot of symbology, and this is kind of a new thing to me because, I mean, I've always been into the visual arts and such, but I've never really understood all of the symbology. You have a lot of astrological things going on with the Babylonian system.
That's right.
And I was wondering, it's really weird because I came at this, I came out here, I was a musician for 10 years, and I was always writing about time, and I don't know why. But there's always been this obsession about the concept of time kind of in my brain. And I started to think about this, and, with astrology, time becomes a mega control, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. If you don't understand history, you don't know where you've come from, and you don't know where you are, and you don't know where you're going. So that is, in essence, our understanding of time. And if you don't understand biblical astronomy, there's a verse in Genesis which says, God has laid out his plans in the stars. The ancient Israelites understood this. They had their entire theology assigned to constellations. Now, I'm not talking about, what is it? Not astronomy, but astrology. I'm not talking astrology.
You're talking about astronomy.
I'm talking about astronomy, right? So astrology came later on, okay? First, you have the perfect model, and then comes along the twisted evil version of it, designed to confuse and distract and deflect.
Mm-hmm.
So in my film, I was blown away by the work of the late David Flynn in his book, The Temple at the Center of Time, which clearly lays out a distance and time relationship from the Temple Mount to major historical landmarks. Or, for example, the fall of Babylon in, I believe, 538 or 438 BC. The center of Babylon is 438 or 538 nautical miles from the Temple Mount. And the Temple Mount is also 1,948 nautical miles from the Masonic landmark in the heart of London. And of course, Palestine became Israel in 1948 by the British giving up Palestine as one of their territories. And so Israel became an independent nation through the UN in 1948. And that's just two examples of about 20 examples that the late David Flynn gives. And I'm going, you know what? It's so deep and it's so obvious that you cannot help but be driven back to the gospel because the signs are everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So I guess, where do we start? Do we start with Syria and the petrodollar, or do we start with the Federal Reserve and central banks? I mean, it kind of all coincides,
Yes, yes, and yes.